Welcome to Middle Age Can Be Your Best Age, the show designed to help make middle age your prime time of life by defying the notion that once you reach 40, 50, or even 60 years old, your crowning achievements are all behind you. Regardless of whether you're just approaching 40 or are firmly entrenched in your middle years, it's time to launch your very own personal journey toward a joyful and purpose-filled second half of life. Each week, host Roy Richards, an expert on midlife renewal and author of A Midlife Challenge, Wake Up, will discuss the challenges common to middle age and help guide you to a brighter tomorrow. Now, here's Roy.
Well, hello, and welcome to Middle Age Can Be Your Best Age, the program where we help you to triumph over common challenges of 40-plus living, also inspire you to imagine your life goals, recharge your batteries, and improve upon your daily pattern of living so that the second half of your life is indeed the best half. And today's program is designed primarily for you women, but you gentlemen stay tuned because a lot of what my guest has to say applies to you also. And to launch today's program, we're going to talk about your Final Four. All of you college sports fans know what the Final Four is. In college basketball, the Final Four refers to the top four college teams, national semifinals, selected to compete in the NCAA men's college basketball tournament, and there are 4 out of the 68 who went to the finals, and the teams gathered together at the end of March or the beginning of April at a single site to determine the national champion. But unfortunately, because of the COVID-19 pandemic, there was no Final Four played out this year, 2020. Not only were college basketball games canceled, pretty much all of us experienced a far less enjoyable form of March Madness. No large public weddings, graduation ceremonies, travel screwed up, schools closed, working from home, and life as we know it, perhaps even permanent layoff from your job or closing of your small business. But guess what? My guest, internationally recognized efficiency expert, author, coach, and motivational speaker Sue Crum, is here to suggest that at the start of September, you and I have arrived at your very own Final Four, and we're at the very beginning of the Final 4 months of 2020. September, October, November, and December. Hard to believe it. It's been approximately 6 months since the world as we knew it seemed to fall off its axis. Do you still feel paralyzed by COVID-19, frustrated, angry, or maybe even bored at times by social distancing? And how are you doing financially? But because of COVID-19, most of all of us experienced a partial timeout. And so how about you? Have you become frugal and more productive these past 6 months? Better yet, used your time to contemplate the future and how you really want to spend the next 20 to 30 productive years? Or have you simply been frozen in place waiting for this bad movie to end? Either way, as Sue Crum reminds us, whatever you've been up to, it's time to face the reality that you are now in the final 4 months of 2020, a golden opportunity for you to end the year strong, accomplishing projects that you may have envisioned when the year began, or new goals you set for yourself during the shutdown. And Sue Crum is here to help you make those final 4 months productive to set yourself up for a most fulfilling and happy and successful 2021. And before we avail ourselves of her wisdom, here are a few of Sue Crum's qualifications. She's an internationally recognized motivational speaker, coach, consultant, and best-selling author whose approach is centered on the belief that people can achieve and succeed with the life they've imagined through improved focus, better organizing, and laser-focused actions. And she's founder and owner of a professional organizing and real estate staging company. And Sue helps folks clear up the clutter and organize their personal lives and businesses. and she's also best-selling author of the 2014 classic Clear Your Clutter and her 2019 follow-up, You've Got the Power. And some of you may recall that Sue Crum was a prior guest on our program way back in November of 2014. And hello, Sue Crum. Welcome back to Middle Age Can Be Your Best Age. Please don't stay away so long the next time.
Oh, gosh. Well, thanks, Roy, for inviting me back. I'm excited to be here today. Thanks again.
Yeah, as Cousin Mayborough would say, I'm just so proud to be here. On the Grand Ole Opry.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Well, in your remarkable personal coaching, you offer a 4-step success process to get clients on the right path to living the life they imagine and deserve. To begin our discussion, can you briefly summarize for us what these 4 steps are?
Well, 4 steps are really people have got to make a decision. I think that's the first one for sure.
Yeah, obviously.
People have got to, decide. And what I've seen in 2020, which has been our most unusual year, is people kind of fell into 2 groups. People who kind of froze in time last March in the new March Madness.
Yeah.
And then other people who said, okay, I'm going to look at this a different way. I'm going to look at this as a gift of time. And I'm going to see what I can get done.
And the minority is the ones that say this is a gift of time versus the ones that were frozen in time.
Right. A lot of people have been frozen in time. But really the first step is kind of like a decision point, making a decision, are you going to do something or are you going to stay paralyzed? And that's really, that's so key, that people's mindset plays such an important factor into how productive they want to be, or if they want to just be frozen.
And recreate things exactly as they were before, which may not have been that great anyway.
Right, yeah. But it's a great opportunity if you look at the glass half full instead of half empty, and then say, okay, I'm not out and about in the world. I'm not going on my trips. I'm not going to all sorts of weddings and graduations and parties and get-togethers. So maybe it's an opportunity for me to work on my inside stuff. What's going on in my head, in the clatter-chatter, which I call clutter of the mind, and what's going on in our environments. And so the first step really has to be a decision point. When people reach a point where they're fed up with themselves, that's a good place to be because they know they've got to change.
When they stop moaning about all the problems they have and start contemplating how they can change, that's when they hit that first stage, I guess.
Yeah, they got to move into a state of some kind of action. And the women that I work with across the country in every time zone, I have clients virtually in every single time zone across the country. They reached a point where they said, enough is enough is enough, and I want to get out of this, and I want to get on with the rest of my life. And those are really right fit clients because they're not going to stay stuck. And other people just kind of get stuck in their story, and then they just stay there.
In the good old days, start looking so much better than they actually were when you're stuck in the pandemic.
Right. And they just, they just kind of stay stuck. And I talk to women all across the country, and some of them really, you say, what have you been working on since March 14th? And they say, I've watched a lot of TV. Or I've done a lot of baking. I'm really good at banana bread now. And I've put on 25 pounds of banana bread.
I'm good at putting on
But
weight.
they really got that recipe down pat now. They know how to do it. And they all reached for, comfort food because everything was upside down. And my clients decided, no, enough was enough was enough. And they said, I want to get out of this, and I know I can't do it by myself because I've been winging it, and it didn't work the way I was trying it. So they wanted to work with an expert mentor.
Once you commit to doing something, what's the next step?
Well, after you commit to doing it, then it's investing in yourself. And so many people, they think they can get the answer from being in a Facebook group where they're going to post all the pictures of messy rooms and their garages and their basements and get lots of sympathy and discussion. And that can be fun for a while. And then all of a sudden they recognize it's not changing much for them because they don't have a proven plan, they don't have a blueprint of operation to go forward.
Yeah,
and so I think
you gotta have what you're trying to reach, and the third step is to launch a plan to get there, I guess.
Right. It's all tied around that decision of tomorrow I'm going to be a day older than I am today, and the stuff isn't going away on my own, and it's stopping me and blocking me from living the life I want to live.
Yeah.
Because some people want to move. I have clients across the country who've put their places up for sale. They've got it ready to go. They're moving. They're changing their location. They're changing where the town they're in, the square footage they're in, whatever it is. And for some of my clients, not all of them, some have moved into places, and they're just trying to figure out what are in these boxes that they've carried from other homes from place to place
to place. Unless they've changed their outlook on life and their goals for the future, it's not going to do much good to pack up and move from Fort Dodge to Kansas City or something like that, unless you have a reason you want to be there.
Right. And so it's, it's getting on to reinventing the rest of your life, and I really appreciate how you mentioned that, I really focus on women, and I have to say, as far as people's environments, and there some men, I'll just kind of broad brush this, Roy, they're happy with a Barco lounger and a clicker and a big screen, and they're happy as can be. The environments, if they've got some kind of a man cave, they're good to go. Yeah. But for women in particular, they feel out of sorts. They feel things are out of alignment, and they're recognizing, things just got out of control. And for some women, they've become caretakers for their adult parents, and then the parents have moved on, and they forgot to take their stuff with them, and that got all left behind. And so the decision-making gets just so overwhelming for people. It just gets overwhelming. And then people kind of give up on themselves. But, it's really all a mindset. And if people make a decision that they can't do it, then, they can't do it. Yeah. What is it, that quote from, I think it was Henry Ford, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. So when they decide they can't do it, then they freeze and they go, well, I can't do it. I'm going to just do Netflix instead. And it's an escape. And that's what's so interesting about this particular year, because in mid-March, when people went, I can't escape anymore, I have to face this, that's when my phone was really ringing off the hook. March and April and May, because people were going, I can't run away anymore. I can't, get on a cruise ship anymore and escape all this and pretend I'm living in somebody else's story. So, I think really it all goes back to the first step of deciding. When people decide that they're fed up, enough is enough, that's when they're really ready to move into action.
Well, your
coaching
process is designed to help folks live the life that they've imagined. But to accomplish this, they first have to imagine what they want their life to be. Any suggestions on how an individual can get started in envisioning and then planning for what they want their life to become?
Well,
identifying strengths is the first stage, I think.
Well, they've got to look at, what it is that they envision for themselves.
Yeah.
And for some people, they can write out a vision statement of what they want their life to look like. Other people do a vision board. some people say, well, I don't have room for a vision board. My house is too crowded. Well, it doesn't have to be a, 4-foot by 8-foot board. It can be as small as a piece of paper where you kind of just design what you want to do.
It's worth adding to your house as a vision board.
Well, see, that's what I'm saying. It doesn't have to be anything big.
Yeah.
It can be just on an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. But you got to have a vision, and without a vision, you're just kind of staring at your stuff. So that's really a good place for people to start. What is it they want to do with the rest of their lives? And why is it important now? For many of my clients, I did have several that were moving, and that's why they invested with me. One client just left last week from Colorado, and she moved by herself as a recent widow to Indiana, where she grew up. And she's so excited.
Indiana.
Pardon?
I love Colorado. I don't think I'd move to Indiana from there.
Well, that's where she grew up, was in Indiana, and she wanted to get back to her roots. And she had been taking care of her ill husband for like 6 years.
Yeah.
And so there were a lot of memories of all of that journey and the sadness. And then she wanted to get on with the rest of her life. And she had so many challenges along the way. I mean, it was just really a lot of things that happened. But she arrived in Indiana on August 27th, and happy to she's going to have her final 4 months back where she wanted to be. And so I'm so excited.
Now she sits around the whole day and sings "Back Home Again in Indiana."
Yeah, well, that maybe she knows that song. I don't know that song, even though I'm from Illinois.
I hear that Indy 500 every year. That's the only way I know it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So for your listeners, I have some free gifts for them if they are, at the point where they're kind of fed up with themselves and they want to get on and reinvent their life, but they know that the first step to reinventing a new life is decluttering the one they're in. So I wanted to give you that website where I've got several free gifts for them. It's 2020 Vision for Success. So it's the number 2020 Vision. So it's like having perfect vision, 2020 Vision, the number 4, success.com/free gifts. Yeah. And there I've got several ebooks and also an opportunity to book a free breakthrough call with me where we could kind of uncover what's going on for your listeners, and if they are, we'll kind of look at what's stopping them from getting on with the rest of their life.
Well, is the following true or false based upon your experience with clients? The folks who lead a cluttered life or work in a cluttered space tend to have a less than optimal experience, at best have a marginally successful career? Is there a direct connection between excessive clutter, disorganization, and lack of confidence, accomplishment, and joy in your relationships and career? I think I pretty much know the answer is yes.
Well, there is for most people. Now, you'll get some creatives who say, "Oh, I love to work in a messy studio," and you'll get people to quote and show you pictures of Albert Einstein's desk, and that his desk was quite cluttered. However, for many people, the volume gets to be too much, and they run out of breathing space, whether it's in their studio, in their car, in their calendar, in their mind, or in their home or office, and they run out of breathing space.
They get overwhelmed by, how it gets so cluttered they're overwhelmed even thinking about cleaning it out.
Well, it's hard for them to know where to start. Hard to know where to start. But I do have a free women's Facebook group, and you asked me to mention that, and I wanted to let everybody know. It's for women over 40, decluttering and reinventing our lives. And I recently changed the name of it because I always say we can't go and reinvent our lives till we declutter the life that we're in first.
If I change my first
we've got to start
Eloise,
there.
Can I come on to your group? That sounds like
well,
men.
like I said earlier, Roy, women just really recognize they want to have a sanctuary from the outside world, and when their home gets not like a sanctuary, they really don't know where to start. And I say 94% of all the women I speak with, they start by telling me how overwhelmed they are.
Yeah.
They're overwhelmed with the stuff. They're overwhelmed with the clutter of the mind. They are feeling like a failure, and yet they were very successful in other chapters of their life. But this particular time for them, it's like it just all of a sudden one day got out of control, and then they lost the ability to capture it back.
Yeah,
and that's what I love to do. I really lead women out of stuckness. They've gotten really stuck.
Well, I noticed on your another free gift you offer is a download called The Top 10 Favorites of Simple Strategies for Clutter.
Yeah, that's in my ebook, which again, if they go, it's one of the pages in the ebook. So if they go to 2020visionforsuccess.com/free gifts, and they download the ebook called Simple Strategies for Clutter Clearing You Can Do Now, that's where the top 10 list is included in there.
Total tips you include beyond the 10. There's another 40 specific tips for like kitchen, trash, etc.
And even staging homes, because I used to do that. I'm no longer doing that. I sold off that part of the business when I had my first book come out. But I have found that with my coaching clients, when I've had several that have their place up for sale. I have a client in Florida that has her place up for sale right now, and another one who's putting a place up for sale in San Jose. And so as we've worked to clear the clutter and get those clients moved, then now they know, how to stage it to sell it, because I used to do that in person. I do everything now virtually, and I have since 2014.
To go through all 10, but could you give us maybe your favorite 1 or 2, 3 things?
I would. And you saw there on the list that first one is the vision board, but the one I really want to talk about right now is number 4, which is weed constantly, and people forget this.
Yeah.
Because some of them live in parts of the country where, everything is seasonal. And growing up in Illinois, I get that. I grew up in Chicago and then went to Bradley for 4 years in Peoria. But and so people, depending on the time of year and depending on where they live in the country, sometimes they've got to capitalize on the gardening months. The months where they're outside, because I have clients in Wisconsin and Michigan and Pennsylvania, and right now, in New York, and they're outside. So they're out there, and they want to be outside. But a good gardener always is constantly weeding, and they're pulling away the weeds so that they can just see the good things that are left. And so one of my favorite tips for inside the home is become a gardener in your own home or in your own home office. And you've got to separate the good, the bad from the ugly.
Yeah,
and you get rid of the bad and the ugly. And then when you look at the good and say, how can I make this great?
Yeah,
and so that one of my favorite tips
is to make a date with your trash man.
Oh, do you like that one? That's one of my favorites, too.
That's got to follow off the weed constantly. You got to get rid of the weed.
It is. Oh, yes. The night before the trash man cometh is always one of my favorites, because where I live, my trash man comes on Mondays. And so Sunday night, it's time to see how many gifts I can find for him, because we got to keep the stuff moving. It's coming in at us 24/7. There isn't a day off that the stuff isn't coming in. So we got to constantly stay on top of it.
Yeah. Someone doesn't have to live in the San Diego area to get your counseling, and I know you have clients all around the country. You said.
I do.
And they can sign up for that. What do you call that test call people make for?
Oh, it's a breakthrough call.
Right,
it's a breakthrough call. So again, it's at 2020vision for the number 4 success.com /free gifts. And it's about a 45-minute free breakthrough call with me where we'll take a look at what's going on with you, what your circumstances are, and, you know, what's holding you back from getting on and taking back control.
Well,
and we'll take a look at that.
I'd like to touch upon your new 2019 book, You've Got the Power.
Yes.
To create calm, increase productivity, and transform yourself. The title sounds very relevant, but how does your new book differ from the focus of your classic 2014 book, Clear Your Clutter? And what benefit will the reader gain from your latest book?
Right. The latest book is I've organized it by seasons.
Oh,
and I just thought that was a great way to put together different articles. And some of those articles I've written before, and I wanted to include them in one compilation. So I look at the book, You've Got the Power, as a follow-up to the Clear Your Clutter book. And so, see, not everybody's got clutter. Some people want to reinvent their lives. And I have two coaching programs. One is on reinventing your life and living at a higher performing life, and that's open, you know, to men and women. But that program is for people who, you know, clutter's not an issue for them, and they're just kind of stuck, whether they retired and they don't know what to do next, or they want to change jobs, or they're just trying to figure out, you know, what else is there in my life? Am I done yet?
Well, I love the title of that. You've Got the Power, because so many people blame the COVID-19 or whatever the current issue is for the fact that they're not doing anything with their lives or getting anywhere. But whatever's going on outside, if you have the right attitude and you work at it, you have the power to change things. So I love that title.
Yeah, it's all about taking back control. It's all mindset. I believe mindset is everything.
Yeah.
When people have the mindset that they're looking at 2020 as a gift of time. And, you know, Roy, we're down to about 100 days, really.
Yeah.
Give or take, if you take off the holidays and you take off some weekends, we've got 100 days left to say goodbye to 2020. And we're all going to, I think everybody's going to stay up this year to watch the ball drop, because we all want this year behind us. And so we've got final 4 months to say, okay, all right, it took a whirl turn here in the middle of March, and now I've got 4 months left. What can I do to be the best version of me as I wrap up 2020? And You've Got the Power follows the Clear Your Clutter book. But for anybody listening, they should start with the first book. And if they don't have any clutter, really, they could start with the second book, because
you know, the interesting thing about it, the Final Four. My Final Four could start October 15th or November 20th. Really, it's whatever date you say, this is the start of my new life, and I'm going to complete this exercise in 4 months, say in April 2021 and the 15th. But the calendar really helps with that exercise. I love your suggestion on the Final Four.
Well, I always say deadlines are delicious, and, you know, in my first book I have a chapter about deadlines, and I just really believe in those, because I think without deadlines we all get into thinking like Scarlett O'Hara, I'm going to think about all this tomorrow, and then our tomorrows start to stack up, and all of a sudden we go, wow, where did that decade go? You know, I was going to do this and this and this, and I didn't do any of that. And I've had so many clients that's been the case. You know, they just are amazed how the years have just galloped by, and they wanna be on top of their stuff, and they want to know where it is.
Yeah.
So once they figure out, you know, what their why is, then they're ready to take that first step and be determined that no more, you know, enough is enough.
Where's the best place for listeners to go to buy your two books? Do they go to Amazon? Or?
Probably at Amazon. Amazon is the easiest. Amazon.com. They're also on BarnesandNoble.com, I believe. Yeah. But Amazon is the quickest. I mean, you can ordering your bunny slippers, and it's there before
I know you have a
dark.
general website that people can learn more about your practice and your book.
Sure. Probably, I have two. The one I was mentioning that has the free gifts, 2020 visionforsuccess.com /free gifts, and then the other one is clearyourcluttercoach.com. That's clearyourcluttercoach.com. Mm-hmm.
Well, in conclusion, the disruptive as the coronavirus has been, it offers an ideal time to pause, take stock of the pluses and minuses of your life and career before COVID-19 struck, and don't simply seek to restore your circumstances to precisely what they were before the pandemic. Not only is this impossible, but no matter how good things were, you can do better and head your life before COVID-19 with too much to do. If it had too much to do, lack of organization, too many responsibilities, and just too much stuff, perhaps. And you may recognize all this, but you simply need advice from an expert, and there's no greater expert than Sue Crum on organizing and removing the clutter from your life and getting off that treadmill. And my guest, Sue Crum, is just the one to do that. And as we just talked about, there are two options. You can buy one or both of her books, Clear Your Clutter or You've Got the Power. You can join her new Facebook group, only if you're a woman, though. Women over 40, reinventing or decluttering our lives. Or maybe you could include someone who wants to be a woman. Or you can schedule your breakthrough call with Sue Crum or one to determine if her coaching is right for you. And that's 2020 visionforsuccess.com/apply. Isn't that how you schedule that call?
Yes, that would take people right there to the page to book a call, and you can also do it through /free gifts. At 2020, great. So I have different ways. Mm-hmm.
These
great.
early days of September are an excellent time to get started, and then you'll have the end of the year to set as your conclusion date, so you'll be all ready for a great 2021, and nobody will be particularly sorry to see this year go. But at any time, it's always time to remember the tried but true statement that tomorrow is the first day for the rest of your life, and you don't have to sit around and be a victim anymore. And thank you so much, Sue Crum, for returning, and best of success in all that you do.
Well, thank you, Roy. I really appreciate it, and I'm wishing you a great Final Four. And maybe make September a September to remember by getting going on what your goals were for the year.
Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. And I highly suggest all our listeners go to your website and take advantage of that free overview, get acquainted conversation.
Great.
Thank you so
Great.
much.
Yeah, and I hope some of the women will come over to the Women Over 40 Decluttering and Reinventing Our Lives. There's about 2,000 women in there now, so we're happy to have some more.
That sounds like a great resource. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, Roy.
Well, now to conclude today's program, here's some gentle advice for wives only. I know your husband sometimes ignores you, takes you for granted, and can be a royal pain in the rear, but please do not attempt to reform him overnight, especially not through constant nagging. The man you married may not fit your vision of a perfect husband, but please do not blame him for everything that is wrong in your life today. If a common problem with today's husband is neglect of spousal and family responsibilities, a common problem with the modern wife is tacit acceptance accompanied by bitter resentment over perceived or real unequal domestic burden or the wife's subservient role. As a renewed 21st century woman, you need not settle for second place in your marriage or your career. Your career and lifestyle aspirations are every bit as important as your husband's, but you must so inform him with love, patience, and understanding. As a married woman at midlife, your primary task, if you have not already done so, is to establish a comprehensive set of personal goals and priorities for the remainder of your life. Your next task is to share these goals with your husband in a loving give-and-take conversation. Clearly explain that no longer are you willing to endure a regimen of mind-numbing household and child care chores without his full loving support and sharing of responsibilities. Ask your husband to suggest steps he can take to ease your burden. And please be patient and do not expect your hubby to reform overnight. Behavior and relationship patterns in your marriage undoubtedly have evolved over many years and cannot be altered in a single day or a week for that matter. In a firm but loving manner, keep the pressure on for your husband to change, but do not explode every time he lapses into a form of self-centered ways or retreats to the man cave in the basement. Never forget that you still love him, at least I hope so, and that sacrifice in marriage must always remain a two-way street. You might best be conducting yourself this very day, or you must begin to do that if you're not already conducting yourself this very day as a full and equal life partner. Take greater personal initiative in making all those important life-altering decisions which should have been yours all along, and expect your husband to adapt. Once you begin behaving like a forceful yet positive, full adult life partner with your own rock-solid goals and agenda, your husband will catch on. And should he continue to refuse to adapt, we all know that you women today have alternative life choices. Do you really want this recalcitrant individual for a husband anyway? You'll find these thoughts along with a lot of other ideas for midlife renewal in my book, A Midlife Challenge, Wake Up, and you'll find that on Amazon, BarnesandNoble.com, or on our website, MiddleAgeRenewal.com. And next week we'll offer some advice for husbands only. For now, goodbye from Middle Age Can Be Your Best Age.
You've been listening to Middle Age Can Be Your Best Age, hosted by Roy Richards, an expert on midlife renewal and author of both A Midlife Challenge, Wake Up, and Wake Up, Captain and Crew, Restart Your Engines. You can learn more about Roy and his Middle Age Renewal Training System by visiting his website, middleagerenewal.com.